Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Titans. A great way to start off the season. It's actually kind of interesting. When you look at the episode, it kind of almost feels like it should have been the season finale rather than the previous season finale. I mean, it just certain aspects of it, the goodbyes and everything, like obviously I'll get into it, but it just seems like, I wonder, was that originally the plan? I mean, because this did get renewed for a second season even before the first season had aired, so it makes you wonder, did he divide it up like that? Maybe, maybe not. Most likely just reading too much into it. I just thought it was kind of interesting because it feels more like a season finale than it would be a season premiere, but we'll get to that soon enough. But it's kind of interesting. I like kind of the almost like horror aesthetic this episode. I mean, to be fair, it kind of mixes with like bits of episodes, like parts of episode 10 of season 1 and parts of episode 11. It's just that whole kind of almost horror house, like Gar and Rachel running away from Trigon, who's got control of Dick, and like, so it seems that just the way it seems like he was altering the place, it seemed like some like haunted house type of thing, and I thought that was kind of a neat aesthetic. Obviously the whole point is to also freak them out and everything. I mean, because I was curious, I was like, why didn't you go after Gar? I was like, because I'm skipping ahead, but it's like you turned everyone else. I was like, so why Gar? Because Gar's the one that she cares about like the most. Like Dick is like the focal point because he was the first person she reached out to. So obviously that breaking that connection more so than anything was kind of what is supposed to be like the domino effect. But them killing Gar was going to be like the final blow because that's someone that she, maybe she hasn't quite 100% figured out how she feels about Gar, or even how Gar 100% feels about her. But it makes you wonder what that type of... I was curious, like, why is that? But it was all part of his long plan. And it's interesting, like, obviously, like, you have Donna and Corey outside being... I love, like, the back and forth of being like, why are you wasting your energy? It's like, well, I don't see you coming up with any better ideas. It's like, well, you're the one who quit the Titans. It's Donna. I love that they're arguing back and forth like that. Also, I love that Hank and Don going to get Jason, who's got the entire bat. It's like, when you look at Jason, you're like, why the hell would Bruce ever leave you alone? I mean, I know there's more. It's like, yeah, he's off doing some Justice League stuff, which I'm curious. Like, it would be neat if they kind of mentioned like what Justice League stuff they were up to. It's like, I mean, it's interesting because this whole Trigon thing's going down, but that's the whole point. It's supposed to be a Titans thing, so it's like, this probably isn't even on the radar yet. Or maybe it is, and they're like, the Titans are there. Those kids are there. Maybe they knew ahead of time. It's like, oh, we'll see what they have to say first, then we'll see what goes down, So I don't know. That's where my mindset is. But I love this is also Hank and Dawn being like, wait, you're the new Robin? It's like, yep. Gotta take me with you if you want to know where you... I'm really curious to see, because that's going to be a future dynamic. It's Hank and Jason. They're kind of the assholes of the group to a certain extent. I mean, I guess you can make the argument, Dick's kind of an asshole too, but it's like, I think they're really going to butt heads, and that's going to be a thing. Like, I'm very interested to see that dynamic, but they bring them along, they show up, and it's like, oh wait, we can't get inside. Instead of getting Jason Todd, we should have been getting freaking Superman. I'm also curious, like, I guess they specifically designed it like that, because certain aspects of what was last season kind of made it seem like, oh, like when Rachel reached out to Dawn and Hank, it's not till I rewatched season 1 to be like, oh, right, that's probably like kind of out of order. Like, just timeline-wise, that's probably not the order. Like, the whole Trigon thing's probably already happened at that point. Maybe, I don't know. It seems like in retrospect, it seems like, like I said, having rewatched it seemed like that was where we're going for. Regardless, I'm on a whole tangent. But I do like that they go in there, and obviously we see what kind of trickles the darkness in everybody. Corey having to kill Rachel just because, it's about saving the world, not just this world, every world, including your own. So obviously, but it's like, it's, tapping into that darkness to do what you think is right. So that's what happened to Corey. Donna is actually kind of interesting. Hers is about revenge. Kind of, it's interesting because that's what led to Bruce becoming Batman and Robin becoming Robin, was their want to get justice / more so revenge for their murdered family. And so it's interesting because I was still curious about that too, because I'm not that familiar with Wonder Girl. This is actually kind of my first instance of really knowing her, this show. So I thought it was kind of interesting. I was like, okay, because she talked about it a little bit about, Diana taking her in, her and the Amazonians. Like, I was curious, like, what her whole deal is. It seems like she's just a normal, well, I don't know whether maybe it's like a thing of like she's part like Amazonian or something, just like Diana's like part god. Like, I'm curious, is it something like that? Because she seems like she's a normal girl because she has a regular dad, not unless they trained her, but she had superhuman power. So that's why I'm not 100% sure, but it's like her dad died in a fire. And turns out, I wonder how does she handle that in real life? Because we know how Dick handled, that whole situation. I mean, it took many years down the road, but we know how that whole situation played. I'm curious. I guess she never did it in her own, but this is kind of like giving in to your deepest, darkest desires. Should she kill the person who kills her dad? It's interesting the Hank and Dawn one, because I think it's a darkness of like Hank's darkness. What's the fact is that what he's going through, like his way of dealing with things, is dragging Dawn down with him. Like, see, I think that's kind of what his thing is, and I guess Dawn is her thing is probably jumping right into that darkness. Like, because what she did back then, she's willing to steep down to do whatever along Hank's side. So I think that's kind of how that works. They kind of feed the darkness in each other. And the one that really caught me by surprise was Jason's, because Jason's pops up there. I'm like, wait, this is literally where Dick was. And it's like, oh, because literally theirs are parallel to each other, because it's like, oh, it's basically fed off of what Dick went through in the season finale, where it's basically like Batman's going crazy. And he's like, yeah, I had to put Batman down. But this is like, none of that had happened. It's just him doing it as a preemptive strike of like, yeah, he would have killed the Joker. It would have just been a matter of time, so I had to put him down. So it was actually interesting. I even love Jason had made a note that he was like, yeah, Robin saving Robin, they'll never let him live it down. So I love that, and it's actually pretty dope seeing them kind of fight. And I was curious, like, I was like, okay, that gun's gonna have some significance. What's that gonna be about? And it's like, oh, I wonder, like, did they tie that together? Because remember, like, in like that fake world Trigon created, Jason got shot and paralyzed by the Riddler, which is interesting. Makes you wonder, is that supposed to be any ties to the fact is that, which is interesting because, like, well, his whole situation plays out because of the Joker, not in this particular instance, but typically the story, right? Which is interesting because Joker's also the one who shot and paralyzed Barbara, when she, eventually became Oracle, which so when she was no longer Batgirl. So I'm like, is that supposedly a winks and nods to that in any shape or form? I mean, more so than anything, it's just supposed to be like, oh, that's the gun that killed Bruce's parents. So I'm like, huh, that's an interesting keepsake. But I mean, I guess you would, because it's like, it's a reminder of like, which always makes you wonder, like, even in his continuity, what did he do to the guy who killed his parents? I'm curious, like, the reasoning behind it changes depending on the continuity. So I'm curious, like, what this continuity to go by. But nevertheless, I guess it's just a reminder of what he does. So it's actually pretty gnarly seeing Jason just straight up shoot Dick in the head like that. So, but just all of this is breaking, Rachel's heart, and that's the point to begin with. I'm curious. I was like, so what is he like? He keeps saying this broken heart thing, and he reaches into her chest. I was like, what are you about to do with that? And he starts transforming. I was like, I was wondering if they were going to do it. I figured you would, but I guess like to kind of ease his heart, his daughter's mind. It's like, I'm a be a human form for a while, But then he starts transforming into his real form, and then like, I was like, oh, is he going to crush her? Like, what's he going to do? And it turns into the jewel. I'm like, oh, I guess that's supposed to be like by her heart kind of giving into the darkness and then like putting it in her head. Like she's like the darkness full. Like, I guess it's like her powers are fully submitted to darkness, and it's kind of like a manifestation of all that darkness. And it's just our powers kind of fully awakened. I guess is the point they're kind of going for. I also thought it was pretty neat how we ended up seeing Gar turn into something else. I was actually halfway expecting him to turn into a mouse. when it was like something small like that. I was like, oh, is he about to turn into a mouse? It's like, oh, a snake. Either way, it's kind of interesting because obviously all last season, only thing he ever turned into was a tiger. Obviously for him, it's like that was something obviously it's very important to him. It's always been his favorite animal, but I'm sure it's also meant to be, oh, this is something I could use to scare people or fight, gives me great strength. But, I'm curious, is this setting up kind of, was that him doing it on purpose? Or was that just something like, oh, I gotta, oh wait, and he ends up changing subconsciously. So does that mean now he's starting to unlock more and more stuff? I mean, could he always turn into other stuff? It's just the tiger is what he preferred. I'm curious to see how they ended up handling that. Like I said, he didn't turn into anything but a tiger last season, so I'm curious to see what they end up doing with that. But luckily, Gar was able to reach Rachel, who in turn was able to reach Dick, because she, for her, it's like, we were meant to find each other, because the fact of the matter is, I was supposed to help you fight your darkness. You're supposed to help me fight mine. You've helped me fight mine. Now it's time for me to help you fight yours. And using what she learned from the dream, that obviously for Dick, this all stems back to the darkness that came to him the moment his parents died. Like that darkness that's been rotted in, and he's, tried different things, being Robin, trying to not be Robin, all that, most of his life since for the past 15 years has been trying to deal with that darkness in some shape or form. And, Rachel is telling him he has to let it go. I even thought it was kind of neat how she's like, okay, if I die here, I die for real. So she kind of repeats the situation of how his parents died, but with herself. But Dick still reached out to cared for her, because he still does care for her, that he is still in there. And so he reaches out to her, and it banishes the darkness. So Rachel has the final confrontation with her dad, which I'm not too surprised. I was like, because even by the trailers and stuff, I'm like, none of this is talking about the Trigon thing. I noticed the jewel, but I was like, it must have something to do with the Trigon thing, but I wasn't 100% sure. I was just like, are they going to wrap this up super quickly? And it turns out, I figured that had to be the reason why there wasn't really hiding her hair of like Trigon and all. I mean, it's not like he's dead. He's just sealed up again. So there's always a fact is that he could return. Maybe not, because most of the organization that wanted to bring him to this world is dead, including her mom, which now rewatching season 1, maybe it really is her mom, but there's some part of me that's hesitant to believe that. Part of me is like, nah, that's probably not your real mom. And once again, this is just based on like the Teen Titans cartoon. That's the only reason why I'm even saying that, but that might be someone pretending to be her mom. Or to be fair, this is its own thing, so it's not like it has to like, I mean, once again, I'm not that familiar with the comic books either, so it could be specifically certain storylines they could be pulling from, or maybe that's just doing their own thing, which is totally fine in its own right too. But it's just like, I was like, I just actually didn't expect. I guess because it's like, well, to be fair, you fulfilled your part. Like the whole point was because she's so obsessed and in love with Trigon, she was willing to do all this, have a child with him, all for the purpose of bringing him back to this world. This beg the question, because that's something we never really got answered. Who sealed him away all those years ago? Because that's why I was kind of thinking, like, because like her mom represented all kind of like what Trigon gives her, the good in her kind of stems from her mom. So that like her light comes from her mom. So that's why I'm thinking like Angela might not be her mom. She just might be some crazy lady pretending to be your mom, when in actuality she's just kind of a huge obsessed Trigon fan that maybe she fell in love with him when she was younger and like has been basically living her entire life trying to fulfill that role. Maybe not. I don't know. That might not be, obviously, like, we're not going through probably the exact one for one from, like I said, even the Teen Titans cartoon. I get it. That's my biggest knowledge to kind of pull from, so that's why I keep referencing it. So, I don't know, I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I mean, to be fair, she's not too sad about the whole situation, because she realized like her mom was using her the entire time, and now it all made her realize that she has a real family right here. So sealing her dad away, kind of saving everyone. So that's pretty dope. But what was really interesting is everyone saying their goodbyes. That's why I was saying, like, oh, it kind of feels more like a season finale than the season premiere. But I guess because we're going to... Oh, no, it don't even seem like we're setting up for a time skip or anything. Like, because I was thinking, like, maybe, like, a couple months or something. I mean, could do that within the next episode or whatever. But it just... Everyone's kind of going their separate ways. Obviously, Corey's got to figure out, well, what's her next plan? Dick taking care of the kids. Hank and Dawn going off on their own. Donna... I guess all kind of continuing what they were doing. So Like, obviously, the trailer kind of hints to maybe some of the stuff. I guess because after this most recent thing, because their whole plan was to, hey, we make enough money, like Hank and Don, we're going to make enough money, and then they're going to quit. But obviously, it seems like that's not going to be. I guess this is going to be that moment where it's like, oh, after this, they quit. Or it could be a thing of like they kept going for a little while and then they quit. But it seemed like Hank was like, I gave up this whole, being Hulk thing for you. But it seemed like you kind of didn't do the same. So I think that rush of being a hero, or maybe it has something to do with Dick, training up the newbies to be the new Titans and everything. I also love Gar being like, so does that mean we finally get to meet Batman? He's like, no, Superman. Gar's like, really? And he's like, no, get in the car. It's like, poor Gar, you gullible idiot. I love you. It's like, I want to meet somebody, I got to meet one of the top tier heroes at some point in time. Come on. And I did like that the fact of the matter is that a good chunk of this episode wasn't just kind of like, goodbyes and whatnot. It's like, it's heavy ass setup, I am curious though, and it's something I brought up because of the trailer. Why did Slade stop? It's like seeing Jason on the TV being like, Titans are back, bitch ass, woo! Like, that was enough to pull him out of retirement, but why? Like, why specifically? Because obviously it feels like maybe I guess because the Titans was like the last big like thing he went up against and he lost and that made him back down. And it seems like those two events are connected. Slade, aka Deathstroke, is the reason why the Titans broke up, but maybe the Titans are also the reason why Slade backed down. Maybe he was severely injured and coming after the Titans is going to be his way to get back on top. Maybe it's personal. I have no idea. I'm very interested to kind of dive into that. What was also interesting too, and I do not know that actor's name, the one that was like, oh yeah, the dude, which is interesting. That dude seems like he's Deathstroke's version. It's like he's the Deathstroke what Alfred is to Batman. That's what it almost seems like, which is also interesting because that actor has a DC connection as well. Because the thing I'm most recently known from is like obviously he plays. I'm blanking on his character from American Gods, but other than that, and he was in an episode of, I think he's actually popped up in other episodes, so he's at least popped up in one or two. I feel like there was like a crossover thing he might have popped up in too. Maybe it was just him from a different Earth. I don't remember. He the first time he popped up was like back in season 2 of it might have been Crisis on Earth X he popped up in. Now that I'm thinking about it. Nevertheless, I'm going on a tangent. He was the first. He was one of the two people that the other half of Firestorm when Robbie died. Not Robbie. I'm blanking. He was the other option other than Jax. Like Jax was the other candidate. That dude was the other. Become the second half of Firestorm. So. Nevertheless, it was just kind of interesting because he's like been waiting because I guess he's been trying to keep in tabs with Slade the entire time, and it's like, oh, you just never respond to any of my letters. All right, so ready to get back to work. So that's interesting. I mean, to be fair, also in Arrow, they pointed out the fact is that Slade back in the day had a partner. Like that was like an early Arrow situation. Like obviously some Lee and Yu stuff. So I'm curious, is that what this is all supposed to represent too? Like, is it supposed to be his partner in that same regard, or like I said, is this more supposed to be kind of like an Alfred counterpart? I'm curious. Obviously, I really like the fact is that Dick sits down and he talks to Bruce, because after everything he dealt with, it's like it's time to have this heart to heart. I never actually told you why I left and everything, and it's like he's like, I finally let that darkness go, and the fact of the matter is it lets me now appreciate all that you've done for me. For so long I've focused on is like thinking that you turned me into a weapon in this, but I didn't think about all the good stuff that happened, that you took me in, that you tried your best, you helped me the best way that you could, so I thought that was kind of pretty neat. But it's like, it's kind of a time for fresh starts, and it's like, so what are you going to do? I think it's time, the Titans got a do-over. And so, and like I said, that's something I'm going into this season really curious about, because obviously everyone else, the OG Titans, have reservations about this whole situation. In particular, we saw that Dawn, even seemed like Donna, both have like reservations about this whole Titans thing. Like, I guess what it did to them, doesn't want the same thing to happen to Gar or, Rachel or Jason. Which is interesting that Jason is coming on. I'm assuming he's supposed to be that one condition that Bruce was like, yeah, you could go ahead and do the whole San Francisco Titans thing again, but you gotta do one thing for me. So I'm assuming bringing Jason on, which that's definitely going to be interesting, especially, because Jason has a problem with authority, We know that, because even Bruce is like, he's a little rough around the edges. Yeah, I'm sure that's your way of putting that super, super kindly. But I'm very interested to kind of dive into this, kind of like obviously the Titans. Like, was that the same building? Because there was a T-shaped building. I was like, are you going to do the Titans Tower thing? Like, are you going to do it? There was a T-shaped building. But like, I kind of wasn't paying as much attention, so I was like, is that the building they were zooming out from? Probably was, but either way, I was like, because they were pulling away, I was like, are they going to do the Titans? I'm pretty sure that was the same building, so regardless. So I'm interested to kind of dive into this season, like as one, main antagonist gets dealt with, another one steps up, and I'm curious to see what this all ends up being, because I don't think it's obviously Deathstroke's not going to be like the biggest focus. I think the Titans is this new start for them all, not just for a new start for Rachel and Gar, but I think this is going to be a big start for Dick, now that he's put his darkness aside. Let's not forget he isn't Robin anymore, and obviously this is going to be him taking those steps to becoming who he needs to be. So I was curious about the whole him and Jace, because I saw him in the trailer, Dick in the trailer with the Titan suit. I mean, with the Titan suit, his Robin suit. I was like, he burned that. Okay, so I was curious like what they were doing with that, and it's like, yeah, that ended up being a I knew it couldn't have been a flashback because Jason was there, but it's like, oh no, that was all in Jason's head. So nevertheless, I am very interested to see what this season has in store for us. Obviously, we haven't even got fully done with like the introductions. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to kind of, based on the trailers that need to be rolled out, whether it be Superboy, whether it be Aqualad. So I'm kind of interested to kind of dive into all of that. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good